Blumhouse's Nanny is all about Mami Wata. What can I say? I enjoyed this movie. The acting was great, the storyline superb, the premise was amazing. Blumhouse's Nanny is all about a woman who was suffering from the grief of losing her only child. And unlike other movies that we've seen, movies like His House, where spirits from the past reach out and torment African refugees who are seeking asylum in the United Kingdom, The Nanny takes a different approach to spirits. They're actually venerating African gods and African deities. And these are deities that have been commonly misunderstood or worse, demonized throughout history. Now, there are many great players in this movie. Malik, the loving and doting father, who is, I believe, incredibly sexy. Aisha, who looks like a fashion model. She's drop dead gorgeous. And there is Adam and Amy. And they're two selfish, self-absorbed individuals who appear not to care about anyone, not even their adorable daughter, Rose. However, it is Mami Wata who steals the show. She is androgynous and mystical and stealth, and she's showing Aisha how to handle her rage and persevere in the face of oppression and adversity. Now we all know about Zeus, Athena, and even Thor. They were the great deities of yesteryear, and they don't have the stain of being evil or considered to be malevolent like many African gods and deities. This is why it was such a breath of fresh air to see good old-fashioned Anansi and Mami Wata on the screen. Yes, we've seen Anansi, the tiny spider, on other shows such as American Gods. Yet there were more than a few share of complaints about him being too violent and worse, petulant. Of course, that is a topic for another video. But when it comes down to the Nanny, it's all about balance. It's balance between the good and bad, balance between the light and dark, balance between the yin and yang. And the Nanny is all about Anansi and Mama Wata. And Anansi represents death and destruction, and Mama Wata represents creation and rebirth. Now, the one thing about the good old-fashioned, supposedly evil deities of yesteryear is that they taught us an important lesson. They taught us how to live in balance with nature. Now we are so disconnected from nature that we not only are losing ourselves, but we're destroying our entire planet in the process. Deities like Anansi and Mama Wata, they teach us how the world works. The world contracts and the world expands. They teach us that everything in nature has a good side and a bad side. They teach us not to run from our problems, to not bury our heads in the sand when faced with challenges, confrontation, and adversity. Instead, they want us to reach out to them. They want us to reach out to them so they can give us the strength that we need to persevere and the strength that we need to overcome. And that's the biggest problem that we have today. We don't prepare ourselves for the hard times. We don't prepare ourselves for those cold, hard winters, the bad news, the grief, the loss, because we fear negativity. And if we let our minds drift in that direction, then we believe that we are somehow manifesting the worst possible situations for ourselves. In truth, we can't manifest without sacrifice. We have to stumble through the darkness in order to get to the light. Besides, a lotus flower can't grow without being in a sea of mud. A diamond can't form without intense pressure. Let's be real here. People gain resiliency and strength through triumph and grit and disappointment. And deities like Anansi sends out signals warning us that there's trouble ahead. Then there's Mama Wata, holding our hands, guiding us through the tough times, ensuring that we arrive to the other side safely. After all, it was the ancient Egyptians who depicted this horrific underworld that we have to travel to in order to become reborn or gain access to a new life. With this said, we have to understand that today's underworld is trauma and adversity and confrontation and setbacks and disappointments. With each slight, with each letdown or setback, we have to make an unconscious decision to not allow adversity to destroy us, but to make us stronger. Now, we saw this in Blumhouse's The Nanny with Malik. His mother sadly was a schizophrenic, and Malik tells the story of her babbling while she's pacing up and down the hallways of his school, subjecting little Malik to bullying and, of course, school kid torture. Now, Malik's grandmother spoke about how her condition worsened throughout the years, where she became maniacal and rageful, so much so that she had to be detained and imprisoned by police officers. Let's think about this for a second. Schizophrenia literally translates into split mind. It is a state where the mind is split between two worlds, the world of the dark, the world of the light. And when those two worlds interlap, you begin to suffer from illusions and hallucinations. And these things will continue until the trauma is properly processed or healed. And if you don't deal with your trauma in a healthy way, it will indeed destroy you and everything that you care about. Now, let's be real here. There are people who can defy the laws of nature. They can manifest without making the necessary sacrifices. In short, these are the people who are the predators, who use trickery and deception to get the things that they want and need in life. In most situations, they trick other people into making sacrifices for them. They do this so they can get ahead. This is common in the scene in The Nanny where Aisha is struggling to get paid. She is working extra hours and even becomes a motherly figure to little Rose, all without being properly compensated. Meanwhile, Amy is bragging about being promoted, while Adam seems to be traveling and dibbling and dabbling in extramarital affairs. And to add insult to injury, Adam tries to seduce Aisha. The very one time that she's vulnerable, confessing that she's missing her son and she needs money to help bring him to the United States, Adam shows his true colors and makes a pass. The sad part about all this is that Aisha seemed to have been deceived her entire life. It all started when her mother died of cancer when she was just 12. It continued when a predator lured her in as his mistress, giving her money for school and lodging, only to cut her off completely when she got pregnant with his child. However, the biggest deceiver of them all was Aisha's cousin. Aisha's son, Lamone, drowned under her watch. And instead of taking responsibility for him, she used Aisha as a meal ticket to come to the United States. So many letdowns, so many disappointments. However, Mami Wata wasn't going to let all these things destroy Aisha. Instead, she was going to give her the strength to persevere, giving her a new family. Aisha was able to give birth to another beautiful boy, and this time she wasn't alone when raising him. She had Malik, who truly loves her, and she had his grandmother, who seemed to wanted to step in and become a grandparent and also a motherly figure to Aisha. Now, Mami Wata teaches us that we don't need to fear death and destruction and negativity, because when we process these things in healthy ways, we're going to gain 100 times more than what we lose.